I'm Sheila Carter-Tod, and I work at Virginia Tech.
Okay, great. So you were going to talk about coming into your program as a new writing program administrator.
Yes, it was several years ago, but I guess it was new at the time. And so I think the big thing of trying to figure out any new administrative position or any new position in general is just getting a feel for what it is you're going to be, I guess, leading or administering or whatever. And so it was important for me to understand what the program was, or what all the components did. It's a big program, so we have, although we only have first year writing 1105, 1106, which is first semester, second semester, and then an honors section, and then we have one upper level division course. Even within that, you have lots of little working parts. So you have the GTA program for all the incoming GTAs. You have mentors, you have instructors. There's just a whole host of various components that sort of go into this. Also, we're pretty much 88 to 90% of Area 1, which is the discourse requirement for our core. I wanted to understand what the program looked like in terms of the transition to the outcomes. I wanted to understand how instructors felt about what they did. You know, you hear lore about, oh, people are discontent and whatnot, but I just really wanted to understand if they are discontent, if there are things about which people are unhappy, what are those things and why? What kinds of things might I do about those? I wanted to understand, because I knew at some level I had to represent the program at to the university, to the broader community. When you're a part of a core, you have a larger stakeholder sort of system. So I needed to sort of get a sense of that. So to me, the only way to understand that is to find just some way of telling the story, so to speak, or creating a story or snapshot of some sort. So I started to think about what is the most inobtrusive way to go about, I guess, action. So I thought, what is a slightly inobtrusive way to do this? And so I thought, if I work with some existing measure, if I try to read across some existing measure, that would be one sort of informal action towards working people into being comfortable with me. I've been in the department a good long while, so it wasn't as though they didn't know who I was, but everybody's a little nervous about transition. And so what I started out with doing was working with our existing, we have these things called student perception of teaching scores. But one of the questions in it was, what did you learn in this class, or what did you like most about this class? And I thought that is a really good way to sort of get a feel for, there were two things I was looking for. I was looking for the language that students used, what language of the outcomes were they using, and also I didn't care, even though I had identifying information, I didn't care if they liked so-and-so or they didn't like so-and-so. I wanted to get a sense of what was it that was working, what was good about the program, what were the students really enjoying. And I thought, well, this is really nice, because it gave me one picture. And what I did was I reported out what I found. I talked to them about it. I said, this is what you all are doing really wonderfully. And what that helped to do was lay a foundation for saying, we do need to know what the program looks like, and we do need to get a sense of thinking about wading in a little deeper. And so by the time it came for the next round of assessment, where I wanted to actually look at student product, so the second part was to look at getting student samples and to look at certain specific outcomes based on those student samples. One of the key things of our program is analysis, so I asked people to submit an essay, an assignment, have students submit an assignment with analysis in it. And the way I asked them to do it was, we even came up with, I have a wonderful group, I have a composition committee who has really thoughtful people on it, really helpful people who know a lot about sort of helping me to think through some of the areas that they're just details. So I'll bring these things to them, but I'll say, this is what I kind of think would be great for us to do. What are some of the things we might need to do to make this effective or to make it work? And they've been really wonderful about that. And then I have 2 or 3 program assistants that help out with that. And then there are the people that work with the GTAs, so I talk to them about, what do you think is going to work best to try to get the GTAs to think about buy-in for this? Why would they want to do this? They don't care about program assessment, they're here for 2 years, you know. How do we sort of get them to see this as an investment in some ways? Because just reporting back to them what they did well, that makes them feel good, but it's still, if you're not committed to this longitudinally, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Actually, it was really a good experience for everyone. We were really, I found out we were really, really, really strong. We have 8 outcomes, I guess, that we did at the time. Wonderfully strong on like 6 of them. And what it also told me was we had some real challenges with about 2 of those. And so it helped me. It helped me as a new administrator because I could say, look at all these wonderful things we're doing. We are blowing this out of the water. And I was really careful about going back and talking to them, talking to the department, even though a lot of the department doesn't teach first year writing, but just making it I was trying to be very transparent. And so I talked to him about what was going on, and I was saying, but we know, I said, I have challenges with these two areas, and I know we have challenges with these two areas. And I said, and part of it's because maybe we just not sure what to do. And so then we did all of our speaker series and our programming around addressing those two areas. And before we did our second round of assessment. So the good thing is that it did give me a sense of working with all of this stuff with assessment, gave me a sense of what our program looked like, but it also it helped to establish a relationship. So I solved two problems with one. I got to start figuring out, people got to know me, I got to know them, I got to know the program, but they also learned to realize that I wasn't coming in to make these grand changes. I just wanted to see what was going on, and I wanted to figure out how to help supplement whatever we were asking them to do to begin with.